Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a big fall. So before I get too deep into this, here's your side handle. One thing, when you get the replacement top handle for an MS151, it does not come with this spring. So this one was actually tweaked just a little bit. I put it in the vise and compressed it. The bar was just a little bit tweaked and I got her straightened back out. I believe that'll cut now. It doesn't take a whole lot to straighten these back out. There was just one little bend here in the tip. And, you know, I mean, this quarter pitch chain, I mean, it's hard to gauge how tiny this is, but this thing's like a bracelet and the bar is pretty flimsy. So anyway, I think we saved that and we're gonna do top handle replacement. These are a little bit more involved than the 201 replacement. And unfortunately, you know, this was pretty fresh. This has not been used very much at all. So just a couple of scuffs here and there. And there's the original air filter. And another way to gauge how much time's on something, you look down there, that star drive, there's hardly any wear from the chain whatsoever. Anyway, so before I got too deep into this, I thought, you know what, this would make some good content. Let's, I've only taken the starter cover off this piece right here and put it on the end of the top handle. And we're gonna have to remove the clutch and take this dust cover shield off. So let me get a little farther in and I'll get you up to speed. Tell you what, I'll try and work fast and we'll try and do this in real time. I don't want this to be a super long video, but I do want it to be informative. Because like I said, this is going to be, so I had to loosen up the bolt screws on the dogs to get this little tab past here. You're gonna need the T20s, which hold most of this together. And it kind of sucks. I mean, you know, this little tiny ass coarse thread screw that goes into plastic is what's holding half of this saw together. I mean, I get it. They're trying to reduce some weight. Carb's gonna have to come off. This linkage is gonna have to come off. So let's just start ripping this thing apart. Come on, let go. Got it. Cat-like. Y'all see that? I'll tell you what, let's drain the fuel out of here so we don't make a huge mess. We're going to have to take this top cover off, this shroud, shield, whatever you want to call it. It just snaps into place. These two tabs lock in right here and right here. I'll show you that on reassembly. So we've got the screw that holds the anti-vibe mount to the case. And now that that's loose, you trace these wires and let's see, I'll make sure you guys got a good view of this. That's decent. I'll try and bring it in a little tighter, which makes it a little bit more difficult. And then make sure, you know, these are all tucked in at the factory. When you put these back together, make sure that you are tucking this in at all these little places. It really does matter. So when you put this back together, you don't pinch your ground wire and cut it or break it enough to where your ground's not going to work. Any of these wiring harnesses, it's going to be critical. It's your rear AV. I've only done one of these, I think, maybe two. So, golly, what a pain. You know, I think Echo did a lot better job with the 2511 doing a purpose-built, ultra lightweight. Okay, you're not going to get, oh wow, you do get a choke rod, but I'm going to take this out and get it out of the way so I can finish the rest of this tear down. Now, what you'll see here is this rubber grommet does not come, nor does a primer bulb, excuse me, purge bulb, if you want to be proper and correct about it. I do remember it being a bear to get the fuel line back in its home and your pulse line back in. Whether I can do this gracefully or not, I'm going to pause this and get the top handle completely removed, and then we'll get everything situated back in here in a second. Okay? Okay, there was absolutely nothing graceful about that. These grommets are a pretty snug fit, which is good. I mean, you know, because, you know, when you lift up on the handle, you don't want those to pull out. Those are really important. But what will help when you disassemble this is to remove the primer bulb. So when it goes in there like this, just push down on this tab right there. And when you take that out, then your fuel line giddy up, excuse me, will just slide out of its home. So I think when we put this back together, we will install that first and then snap the primer bulb in place, because you're not going to be able to fit that in and around. You've got two sets of lines here. Here's your fuel supply and return line back to the tank. So when you purge the fuel out of the tank, and then when you pull on this, make sure this is your impulse line. This thing's really critical. This is what gives your, every time the piston goes up and down, you get that pressure, vacuum, pressure, vacuum, pressure, vacuum. So that thump, thump, thump makes your carb go thump, thump, thump. Faster you go, the more it thumps, more fuel gets delivered. Slower it goes, less fuel gets delivered. So that tells your carburetor what to do. So make sure that's in there nice and tidy. And we're gonna get these cleaned up and start fishing everything back into this top handle. Like I said, this is a little bit more involved than doing a 201. The 201 I can do in about 10-15 minutes tops, and I've got videos on that. But this one will definitely be worthwhile. Let me get a little bit more progress, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, I saved you the pain of me fiddling around with this. So the first thing I did when I put this new handle on, this plastic tab right there actually slides in, and there's the retaining screw right there. So I thought I would install that first so the top handle wouldn't be flopping around on me. And then the first line that I hooked up was your pulse line. There's enough room, here, let me get something smaller with my finger. There's enough room for that. You can actually just push straight up on it. You just have to match that groove with the groove that's cut into the handle housing. And then this actually just pushed in nice and easy. This rubber hasn't firmed up from age, so it was still pretty pliable. So I just drove it in at an angle and then pushed it through, and it's in its home. You can check from the other side. You can see all the way around that grommet is in its home, and that's in its home as well. Next thing we'll do is lower this, and then we'll feed this through, and I'll probably attach this just to get everything a little bit more stable. And then we'll do the grommet and the primer bulb. Okay, I think we can do this without it being too terribly painful. So I reach down here and just snap that into place. I haven't screwed this down, and I haven't screwed this down. We've got wires that we need to run and cycle around. I'm gonna hold off on that, but getting this in place puts a little bit of tension holding this down. So now I've got, and you want to be gentle with this. You don't want to use nice sharp new pliers. Just rotate nice and gently around and get that back into its home. Just work around ever so easy. Don't pull on this too hard, because if you tear this, it's going to have an air leak and your saw is not going to run right. So just be patient, nice and easy, and look, it fits in there just like it's supposed to. So the next thing is we want to install tank vent slash fuel lines. Whoops, that has to match. All right, so that should stay right there. And then, oh crap, I forgot to look and see which side is up. Here's how we're going to find out which side is up now that I didn't look. It should be a hole bigger than the other. Okay, so you see that? The rubber's stretched right there. So this primer bulb is going to go in that way. So the longer tip goes towards the front of the saw. And that's your hidden clue of how to figure out how to put things back together. There's always clues there right in front of you. You just have to look for them. So I can't see worth the crap trying to do this. There we go. That's easier. Kind of work. There we go. That's almost snapped in. I want to hear it click. There we go. I can see that primer bulb's now in its home. That's connected. That's connected. Let's route these lines. And there's a pinch point every little bit. And again, don't do this. You can look nice and close. That's got some wear on it. Drag your finger across it and make sure there's no sharp edges. You don't want to puncture the insulation. And roll it in there with your finger, or you can do it with your fingernail if you got one. Push down slightly. Again, here's another pinch point in this track. Now a piece of plastic would probably be better. So here I can show you one of these pinch points. It's right there. See how it narrows? So what you want to do is run your thumb over that, and it'll go most of the way in, but you want to make sure that that's seated and not sticking up. You want it below the pinch point. Follow along this way, another pinch point, another pinch point. Let's plug this in, and then we will seat these last couple of, I wish I could do this a little faster, a little smoother, but this is really tedious. These little saws are a bear to work on. It's worse than other saws. All right, so there, that's plugged in. That goes into its pinch points. And then we'll make sure that these are back in where they belong as well. This is really important. Take your time and do this. And if you have to turn your little screwdriver, kind of diagonal to make sure that that's in its home, that's what you need to do. You want those really recessed in there so they're set. All right, follow the yellow brick road. Okay, that's in, that's tucked. And let's plug this in. All right, we're just about there. I'm going to pause it right now, and I'll be able to put the side cover, the starter on. I'm going to put this screw back in, this screw back in, get the dogs buttoned up, this snap back into place, and then we'll put this anchor for the AV mount in the back and install the carburetor in the next section. Okay? All right, follow along with me. I'm gonna get you in nice and tight. Once you get this flush, you may have to kind of manipulate. So, even though I use an impact for everything, See how that's going in nice and easy? And you just want to be snug. You want to trace, you know, these are self-tapping screws, that's why they're coarse. So you want to go back into the same threads as they made from the factory. So if you have to kind of back up a little bit, there you go. And I fell into place, and now she just rolls right in. So I'm using those same threads because that's just a nice round hole with nothing in it. And again, it nice and easy. One of the things that dictates how hard you can crank on something is how much thread is actually in the hole and how fine or coarse it is. And with these being the super skinny coarse threaded screws with only just a little bit in the pocket, you know, snug is all you need. If you like to do that extra quarter turn, this is not for you. All right, let's slide. Where'd you go? Oh gosh. Technical difficulties. Just lost my needle bearing. I think when I flipped it over, it fumbled. I'm gonna pause and we'll get. Okay, I found that sneaky bastard. It was underneath the saw somehow, or stuck to it. I don't know. Now, when you lay this in here, you want to make sure that actually falls there. You see that? You want to be in the groove of your oil gear, so those mate right there. Left-handed threads, so this is counterclockwise, and then you want to, this is a 12 volt, so you know it's just a little bump to make sure it tightens as it goes, but you need to have some little bump on there to make sure that it stays seated. We'll get this one in. Same thing, you're going into plastic, turn backwards until you feel it drop. Come on. Come on. There we go. Okay, that's it. Just a little bit of flex. It's snug. Let's snap this top piece in. Let's go this way. We'll find its home. That. Okay. You see how there's no seam, or the seam's nice and tight right there. Now we have to come over to this side. That one's already in, and whatever it takes. There's a little tab up here. There we go. See how that is? That needs to, where we at? There's a little tab right in there that needs to be on the outside, and that'll allow this one to snap in. So, you know, it's just these little things. When you're working on these, don't underestimate the Germans and the Swedes for doing some really, really beautiful molding of plastics. I mean, everything should just fit like a champ. Snap into place, positive lock here, positive lock there. If you're fighting it, stop, you're doing it wrong. It should, with just a little bit of effort, everything should snap together, lay in place. If you're fighting something, back up a little bit, take a look at it, look for your witness marks where things meet up, you'll see. And the rest of this is easy peasy. You know, we're going to, see if I can get you over here, get a little look at that. That goes in, there's only one hole over there. And I want to line up that hole right there and the lower hole. So these, come on, glasses would help. So I've got one hole right there. I've got one more. So there's one, and the other one is on the bottom here. Make sure that is in there, and then you can gently press forward. Crap. Now we got to get this third one in here. Maybe should have done that first, but I think with a little bit of persuasion, maybe not. No, we can do this. You know, I do this every day, and if I struggle with this, just be patient. If you have to walk away from it, walk away from it. It is not easy to do this stuff. It requires a lot of patience. Yeah. I'm gonna pop this out, and I think I'm just gonna, well, hell, I'll do it while you're watching, because you can see I'm struggling with this, which means you will be too. So let's try, and if this wasn't so greasy, I could walk this out a little bit and get that in first. Nah, I'm gonna have to take you off camera and do this. It's painful to watch. Well, that took some doing. So what I did was I laid a pair of screwdrivers in here to hold the carb in place, and then, or a pair of pliers, and then used another set of pliers to actually force that up on that elbow to get it to stay still long enough. But you can see, if I can get the correct angle on it, it's right there in its home where it wants to be. Fuel pickup line's there, and the impulse line is there. So it's easy peasy from here. It's just going to be your cover. Oh, and you'll notice, so you just have to point this towards choke, because inside here there's a reciprocating flat spot that you'll want to make sure it goes on there, and it snaps. So you have to push down pretty firm to catch that little locking tab right there that's in here. Alrighty. That is a top handle replacement, pain in the ass for Stihl MS151. Appreciate you following along, and throw me a like if this was helpful. One more little tidbit. When you're filing this quarter pitch chain, and make sure I'm in there pretty good. There we go. See if I can't keep a decent view. So, you know, just do your normal couple of strokes and get that cleaned up. Shit. Down. But it seems to be an awful lot of side meat on this with that. So if you go in there at an angle and just hog out, or, you know, I guess you can do that first. You can tell I'm using pretty hard down angle. I'm not even touching the top plate of the tooth. There's a little bit of an air gap there. Get some of that material out so you can get a nice clean edge and get a little bit of hook. Oops, get back here. Okay, a couple of strokes to clean it up. And here, I'll take you in and I'll show you without doing that. Which one are we on? This one? Yeah. There we go. But there's still a fair amount of meat right there. So you don't have any hook to it. So try this and see if this doesn't help. Is to, where we at? I think we're on this one. Is to go down at an angle, not touching the tooth, not touching what I just sharpened. And then now, where we at? Right there. You take it in a little tighter. See how that looks better? That should help clean chips out. I did this side as well. That one I didn't do. But, you know, just some style points on working with this semi-chisel chain, or chamfer chisel, whatever you want to call it. Because this little file really doesn't get down in there like you want it to. You know, and I'm down there where I'm touching the chassis with the file, but it's not giving me good results. So hopefully that helps.